want to start by introducing you to another really inspiring woman, Sarita Kennedy East. Sarita Kennedy East lived in Texas, just south of Corpus Christi, and when she passed away, she gave all of her land, well, most of it, I should say, to the Catholic Church. And this wasn't just a house or a farm. This was a 400,000-acre ranch. For some context, the size of Cambridge is about 4,500 acres, about 100th of the size of this property. So I started to think, how many Saritas have there been within the 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church? And what kind of footprint could that have resulted in? And as I started to approach this question, I started to realize that we didn't just own parishes, but schools, hospitals, homeless shelters, retreat centers, daycare camps, monasteries, even oil wells, and in places like Lebanon and South America, entire mountain ranges. 2,000 years of Saritas led to the Catholic Church being the largest non-governmental landholder in the world. So while I was pondering this all, I was discerning vocations to be a nun, which is still in process, that discernment, in the Rust Belt, in my home city of Buffalo, New York. And in Buffalo, like many cities in the Rust Belt, there's a lot of underused and abandoned properties, not just industrial sites, but also churches, hospitals. There's urban prairie that covers the city landscape. And I started looking out and seeing how much that land could be used to support the people of the place. I had been working in homeless ministries, co-founded my first company, which is still operating and providing aquaponics, fresh organic food locally to the community in a food desert. As I started to try to get a handle on what the Catholic Church actually owned rather than just these sites I would visit, I found this as the state of the land records. And not just this, but also usually spread throughout an entire diocese. Manila folders and basements run and organized beautifully, but in paper records and handwritten records by Sister Marianne or the parish priest. So I started to kind of prototype what would it look like to understand what we owned with the Boston Archdiocese. And one of the challenges here to even know what the Boston Archdiocese was that me and the students I had started working with at Yale on this project couldn't even find a map of diocese boundaries that was digital. We reached out to Georgetown with their program at CARA on church data. There was nothing. All we could find for the US was a PDF, and globally, there was really nothing. In Boston, which was kind of our prototype, we mapped all 625 Catholic affiliate properties within the area, estimated at least very lowballing $10 billion worth of real estate. And we started running analyses on these, such as sea level rise. So if there are any Catholics in the room who go to the parish downtown at the main cathedral, you're going to be kayaking into Mass unless we figure out how to mitigate climate change. Finally, I thought, gosh, there must be a global map of dioceses. There must be more information here. And I found myself, when I was 26 years old, on the third loggia of the Apostolic Palace, meeting with the Secretary of State in the Vatican. This hall is covered with some of the most beautiful cartographic masterpieces I have ever seen. And when I met with the priests, I was shocked to find out that that was the last time they had had an update on their maps. It was really the Holy Roman Emperor, kind of, and the frescoes on the wall. And so I was sitting with these monsignors, and I asked them, I showed them a graphic prototype of what it would take to map dioceses around the world and talked about property. And I sat there terrified, thinking, oh my gosh, can you be excommunicated for just asking a question? What am I doing here? And the Monsignor spoke in Italian for about 10 minutes as I sat and looked back at me, why, yes, this would be useful for everything. And so I told them I'll be back. And so I went and I led the applications prototype lab at Esri, which is the largest geospatial technology company in the world. They had just finished the UN Admin 3 boundaries, so like sub-national for World Health and CDC to help them contain the Ebola crisis. So it was perfect to do another massive boundary project. It's a huge undertaking. And we also mapped Catholic properties in the United States at this time. So this is a map of all the Catholic affiliate properties in the USCCB. This includes hospitals, cemeteries, etc. And we started to tie this data in with other information, like how does it contribute to core habitat? How can it be part of the conservation solution? How is it impacting water quality? And there's about 100 different measures of this, and since we've made thousands of maps. There was no map of Episcopal conferences. So these are kind of like the countries of the Catholic Church. We are in the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and you can see they don't measure one-to-one with nations. So North African Bishops Conference is kind of a combination of several places. We mapped provinces, which are the next level down. Now, these don't cover the entire surface of the earth. You can see there's some gaps where it's not quite as yellow, some holes in the Holy See. That's because the ontology for a province requires there to be a diocese and an archdiocese to make one up minimally, and those are mission territories. And then we mapped all more than 3,000 dioceses around the world. It was a huge undertaking. And so why does this have to deal with anything with climate change or the church taking action? Well, first, it allows you to see the church globally. This is the percentage of Catholics per diocese around the world, and a lot of people ask me about North Arabia. It's because there's a lot of Filipino workers there. So it just stands out in the middle. I want to make sure that's taken care of. We mapped the priest shortage crisis globally. Think it's bad in your hometown? One priest for every 27,000 Catholics in parts of South America. And we started to look at biodiversity loss. This map shows where the Catholic Church is the most important non-state actor to address biodiversity loss, where they say over 98% of the population is Catholic. There's a very fragile state that isn't very functional and can do anything there. A lot of development pressures, a lot of rich biodiversity, and all of a sudden we can see and know where to allocate our resources and take our strategic work and have massive impacts on the world. Many of these dioceses are in really critical areas like the DRC and in South America. And then also think about migration. This is a map of deadly heat waves. A lot of people are going to be moving around. So I premiered these maps in 2016 as part of the Vatican Arts and Technology Council, and it was the first time the global prelates of the Catholic Church could see the global jurisdictions and the global footprint of the people that they shepherd. And by 2018, I had multiple audiences with Pope Francis before then, but this specific one, I had been given permission shortly after to establish a cartography institute within the Roman Curia. It would be the first female-founded institute in the history of the Roman Curia. Budget was very low, so it's under renegotiation, but I'm hopeful it will move forward. So what happens if we can geo-enable the Catholic Church, not just in the Boston Archdiocese, but all the way up to the global scale, is we can get about land holdings minimally back of the napkin, because nobody really knows, the size of France and Spain combined to address climate change. What happens if we don't? We won't address climate change in time. All these beautiful solutions we've seen, we just heard about regenerative agriculture today, need to be scaled in a way that's financially sustainable and can be rapid, because we are in crisis mode. So being able to take solutions on the ground to the scale of a diocese or province and using algorithms to optimize where you put these. If you put 500 trees planted on a parish in a suburb along a nice tree line to a forest, you're going to have thousands of times less impact than if you put 15 trees in an urban parish that has no trees, urban forest canopy around it. And now think about all the other solutions. If you do environmental solutions without understanding the environment, I know this sounds very logical, you're going to miss out. So looking at entire property portfolios in a really kind of informed way will allow this to scale then globally, computationally understanding and categorizing dioceses and allowing them to move forward. The Vatican Cartography Institute would provide the infrastructure, the foundation, and the policies so that not just GoodLands, the organization I founded to do this, could scale this, but actually the dioceses and local capacity could really do this on their own and rapidly ignite the 1.3 billion Catholics around the world to fight climate change. We are called to feed the hungry, to shelter the homeless, give drink to the thirsty, visit the imprisoned, bury the dead, visit and heal the sick, and clothe the naked. This is what Scripture tells Christians they will be judged by. And every one of these connects to the land. If you want to feed the hungry, you got to grow that food somewhere. If you want to shelter the homeless, you got to put a roof over their heads somewhere. If you want to give drink to the thirsty, you have to get it from a water source. If you want to bury the dead, you're burying them in the ground. And if you want to heal the sick and help the sick, gosh, we've heard so much about how environmental health and landscapes are directly connected. There's about 1.3 billion Catholics. It's such a big population, and it's the largest network of healthcare the world has ever seen. It's the largest non-governmental network of education with over 35 billion students, not even including the university education system. It's the largest network of humanitarian aid, second, if you include all member organizations of the United Nations. And I'm so hopeful that in the next century, we can see Catholic conservation and sustainability become the largest network the world has ever seen. Thank you.